On the factory floor of Incept 3D in Mira Mesa, there are more than 100 3D printers in action. They're making everything from replicas of human bones to tap handles for San Diego breweries.
It's basically a very sophisticated hot glue gun.
Company founder and CEO Michael Armbruster explains the process.
You've got filament that goes up through a tube and it comes out of this very tiny nozzle. The 3D printer will then travel along the X and Y plane, depositing that filament onto the part.
Some objects are made in 24 hours, some are made overnight. Armbruster says he got hooked on 3D printers 10 years ago because he loved making things and immediately saw the potential of 3D printing.
I was just blown away that this technology completely disregards complexity as a challenge. A part can be very simple or a part can be very complex. The machines simply don't care. You can then build any shape, which would then, of course, apply to any industry that needs to make things.
He says 3D printing is great as long as you're making a diversity of products or small volumes of the same thing. It cannot compete with conventional manufacturing if you want to make 10,000 identical items. Factories using predetermined molds can punch out product a lot faster. Carolyn Freund is an economist at UC San Diego and dean of the School of Global Policy and Strategy. She has studied how 3D printing has affected trade and says it has increased international trade among those products that are commonly printed. She says 3D printing excels at the innovation end of product creation.
Say I'm looking at a part and I'm thinking, actually, this part would work much better if it was slightly differently shaped. Now, if I wanted to use a mold, I'd have to make a new mold, do all this work, and if it didn't work, throw out the mold. With 3D printing, I can try thousands of different ways of adjusting that little part, see which one works best, and then make a mold for that new, better part.
And then there are products where every one of them needs to be a little bit different.
One place we're seeing it a lot is in artificial limbs. So the size of artificial limb anybody needs and shape is going to be slightly different. And the closer it can match their actual other limb, the better.
Making artificial limbs with 3D printers is exactly what San Diego-based Limber Prosthetics and Orthotics does. UCSD engineering doctoral student Joshua Pels is the CEO of Limber P&O. He holds up one of their artificial lower legs.
This is the Limber Unileg. It is a single-piece prosthesis that is 3D printed in just half of a day. So you press start at the night, and you pull it off looking just like this in the morning, ready to go onto an amputee, allowing them to get back out into the world.
Back at Incept 3D, Michael Armbruster shows me the printed spine of a young child based on CT scans from a children's hospital. They're preparing for surgery on the child. Armbruster says while 3D printing seems very innovative, it's not new technology. So why the recent explosion in its use? Expiring patents totally changed the industry.
It was there in the 80s and 90s, and it was just as good as it is today, but it was this tiny little market that only the most high-end people would use. And it was a secret for decades. They called it rapid prototyping. They didn't even call it 3D printing. Then some patents expired, some big ones, the ones that allow for all of this.
There are new uses for 3D printing. In medicine, organic printing of some body parts like heart valves is in development. Some construction companies are beginning to make 3D printed houses. It works off a computer program, of course, but their printer pours cement. Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.